When we discuss domestic abuse, it encompasses a range of, isolated incidents or patterns of controlling, coercive, threatening behavior, violence and abuse. And focusing on domestic abuse, these would be between intimate partners, associated persons, family members. Now, when people think abuse, they naturally think physical violence. However, abuse can manifest into numerous forms, including emotional and psychological abuse, sexual abuse, financial, coercive control, your kind of harassment offences, stalking. In my role as a detective within the safeguarding team under the public protection unit, I've witnessed firsthand how these forms of abuse can devastate lives, and each case that we work on, each case tells a story. They tell a story of pain, they tell a story of resilience. And I think it is essential, for us to recognize and address these issues, to create that awareness. And, in case someone's listening out there that identifies with one of those forms of abuse, that they know what they can do to receive that support. I don't think with the new legislation of, the Domestic Abuse Act, incorporation the controlling of coercive behaviour, because it's fairly new, we need to talk about it. We need to raise that awareness, and so people understand that it is something we can support them through.
In the workshops, we talked about the man box, the very limiting gender norms that tell men how they can or cannot behave. And Dan made the comment that very often the phrase, don't do that, that's too, and it's followed by a sexist or homophobic comment. So I think that trying to get boys to reflect upon some of the messages that they've picked up, perhaps through the interactions with peers, perhaps through digital content, influencers out there, to get them to reflect a little bit more carefully about the language that they use, their perceptions of what it means to be a man, how perhaps, a more positive type of masculinity might empower them first and then lead to healthier relationships and safer and inclusive communities.
How do we teach boys empathy, respect, emotional regulation in your youth work in particular, Charlene?
Well, firstly, I would invite them to go to any of our four youth clubs. These are safe spaces for them to be themselves, to see some role modelling happening, to get involved in the different activities, get involved in the chats. It's a great space to come and learn how to develop themselves.